have you ever walked home and just been tired because you don't know if you're tired or if you're hungry, and it was just one of those days? If you were about to scroll away, you're just like, that's actually what I'm doing right now. Mechanics behind that.
The thing about storytelling, it activates three things: your emotions, your attention, right, and your memory. Because you ever think, like, when you scroll on social media, the first thing that people start off with is a hook.
Yep.
It could be something. My previous event, I said I raised $2 million at a $20 million valuation. If you're trying to raise money, I've already got your attention.
Just do your taxes.
A lending platform.
Okay.
Oh,
I want to do a lending platform between small business merchants. All right.
Sounds risky.
That sounds very risky.
I know.
Already.
So you need a lot of capital.
You guys are already pouring water.
What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grind.
BTG.
Hey, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Our podcast is about business and lifestyle. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. My name is Kay.
Yo, I'm Alan.
And I'm Tosin. And today I'm going to be complaining about social media.
Wait, what?
So as many of you know, I'm not that much on social media. However, I don't know, maybe they've kind of targeted me as a CPA, but I get a lot of videos of people out there that are just trying to, maybe they're trying to give this portrayal of they're also CPAs or tax strategists, and they can help you save $1 million, get $1 million back in refund. And I see a lot of those. You can't? Well, that's another topic for another day. All right. But they have this way of telling the story of what they do.
And they keep you engaged, right?
And they keep you engaged. But then, no, not just keep you engaged. I scroll down and like, oh, wow, 1 million views, 3 million views, 5 million views. And I'm like, what? There must be something they're doing right to be able to garner this much attention on this video. So I don't know, but I need some help. You guys need to educate some of us that don't do social media that well.
Well, here's the thing.
On the power of how did that work?
There's power in narrative.
Yeah.
Got a quick example for you. Last month, I was on a business call with one of my founders, and we were trying to pitch a business. Now, I asked some background information, like, who's this person, right? This person is an art lover. It just so happened that the company that we were pitching for is building a platform for artists. And I basically painted a story in a way that helps them to be able to relate. I say, hey, look, you're an art lover. You collect art. What this company is doing, I don't want to put the company out there. I said, what this company is doing is positioning artists to be able to sell their arts. But number two is positioning art lovers to be able to easily find folks, you know. And then I told him, I said, look, you are having a direct impact on the economy. So it's up to you to determine whether you want to be part of that journey, whether you want to be part of this greatness that's happening. And you know what he kept saying? He's like, yeah, I know what you mean. I said,
all right, Tony Robbins.
I said all that to say that people don't buy products. They buy stories.
Yes.
They buy emotions.
They buy into you.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know?
And once you've been able to cling on people's emotions, the rest is easy. So what you saw on social media is people like essentially products or services being hinged on emotions. And then the direct results of that is folks buying it. You know?
But why is there power in that? I mean, I get that it's like an emotional thing, but like,
because we're wired that way. We're literally wired that way.
Facts tells, but stories sell, my brother.
And what I'm gonna say is that we're literally,
or is it that more people are wired that way?
No,
Because
you're
some of
wired
us
that
are
way.
like,
Because
scroll past
so
it.
there's, first of all, this whole social media thing is, it prays, and it's an algorithm, right? It keeps learning. It's machine learning and all that stuff, but so to speak. But it's preying on our innate need to identify and belong. We're social creatures as humans, so we like community. So we have not evolved yet to adapt and resist to what social media does. We don't even know. We know to a certain extent what it does to our brain. Like it's an addiction. So once they pull on your
hits and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that's why you see you could scroll for hours and you're like,
one more scroll.
Like you can just scroll. You're like, it's time for the podcast. Who knew?
Yeah.
No, but seriously, it has to do with our chemical makeup, and they have broken it down. So in summary, I had the same thing where I had fractures in marketing, was not getting the results. So I started doing a lot of research and marketing, decompose it. What I learned, which I've known for years, but the level, it's just evolving so fast with AI that now we can break down when we split test everything. I'm talking about like where the qualifiers are. So the reason why it tugs on you is because they're speaking to you. If they're not speaking to you, you go right by, and that's done by design.
Yeah.
If I say, hey, like, have you ever walked home and just been tired because you don't know if you're tired or if you're hungry, and it was just one of those days? If you were about to scroll away, you're just like, that's actually what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And everyone who's like, I never feel that way because I don't walk home.
They just scroll.
And you know what?
And they just scroll right by. And they're but the people who they're targeting, they're like in it hardcore because it's speaking to them directly. And they have broken down the psychology of storytelling in selling because they've understood that these words resonate with you and you need to target that person within the first 5 to 6 seconds. And you need to disqualify and remove the people who would not be interested in the first 5 to 6 seconds. And then the algorithm keeps showing it to you because every time you click off of it, it doesn't show it to you and it doesn't show it to other people like you again. And so it only shows it to people like you because it wants you to stay engaged longer on that post. So more of you, less of him, a whole bunch of you engage for 30 seconds. Everyone who's on there engaged for 30 seconds and is likely to comment and post and like. So it's all built like to your psyche now. So that's one thing. That's the mechanics behind that.
The thing about storytelling, it activates 3 things: your emotions, your attention, right, and your memory. Because you ever think like when you scroll on social media, the first thing that people start off with is a hook.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could be something. My previous event, I said, I raised $2 million at a $20 million valuation. If you're trying to raise money, I've already got your attention because now you're like, let me hear more.
Or he knows what I'm about to, or what I'm going through.
How do I get to him?
Exactly. Or think about what Alan was saying, right? Where it talks about how, you might be hearing something and the minute you can relate with it because of a memory that you have, you're glued to it.
Yeah.
And it's just how the word works, right? What us as human beings.
We're wired for that.
That's exactly
no matter how much you think you're not swayed by whatever.
If something resonates with something that you want or you're going through, you're going to tune in to see what they have to say. If they say something that doesn't resonate right in the first 5 or 6 seconds, you're like, and
it built connections faster than facts or features. Remember the example I gave about, a car salesman trying to buy a car? I can tell the features of the car and the facts about the car all day long. It doesn't matter.
It's not what I want.
But if I paint a story about how he looks with a top drop and some beautiful women looking at him, just gazing at him. If that's what he wants, right?
If he doesn't care for that,
then I got him.
Yeah.
Because now he can, people say, picture yourself.
But I would say another thing is that, if you're creating value in your pitch, right? So it's not enough to tell you what you want, right? I have to create the story and make you actually visualize and hear it. Because I can say the same thing, literally the same content. They literally have content writers for this reason.
Yep.
I can say the same thing with the meat of it, but I can now phrase it to where you're able to visualize and experience it. So now you're there and you're like, well, that's different than what he said. No, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
He's pitching you need both of them. They're the same thing. But one you resonated more with, the other one you were like,
Yep.
So, I mean, even I've taken lots of communication and sales courses and everything. I tell everyone the number one thing you need in life is telling a story about yourself. Anything you're doing, no one is working with you. Well, some people are working you because it's cheap. But if you bring no value, it doesn't matter. But if they're buying into you. So you're selling yourself because you're so confident that you can achieve this, that, and that. And you're giving me numbers and you're understanding my pain points. I'm like, here, I'm putting fuel, take all of it. Because you're giving me what I want, the value of, $10 to buy something. Like if I'm buying a car that's $10K, right? People often think the value of the car is $10K. No, that means I think the car is worth more than $10K because I'm willing to give up the $10K to keep the car instead. Because if it was equal, I wouldn't give it to you.
Let's look at Tosin as Exhibit A.
Oh, Lord. Go ahead.
Previously, he said, I suck at selling.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if Tosin had a great narrative, because obviously you're in a crowded market, there are CPA firms everywhere.
In the same building.
In the same building. Okay. But what is going to separate you from everybody else is your ability to relate with folks in a very unique manner. And it's all about how you paint the narrative. Think about where you're coming from. Think about how many people that you've helped. And think about the success story. And now think about how you can put all that together in a nice, beautiful storytelling way.
I think you're thinking too much.
No, but I mean, I agree with you guys because that's what we're actually trying to do right now. We're working with the marketing agents and, the first thing I said was, and I think I mentioned it tonight, as we were talking, is that are we being perceived the way we want to be perceived?
Right.
Is the story you're telling online what you want people to get from it, right? Because you guys have explained it perfectly about, you've got to have the right hook. You have to be able to, get into their emotions and,
that's when it comes to marketing,
right?
However, now let's do on the flip side of the people putting these stories out there, right? Now, if you're trying to, let's say, let's still use that CPA firm as an example. You're trying to hit high net worth individuals, but the story you're putting out there is hitting towards mom and pops.
No, your story has to be tailored.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you're not
you think that the story you're putting out there is for XYZ person. However, that's resonating over here.
When it comes to sales and marketing, that's where your demographic research comes in play, right? You need to understand what do these people who I want, what do they look like?
Yeah.
Like they call it an avatar, right? You have to develop a ideal customer avatar, which means you're creating an avatar of what this person looks like, what they do, whatever.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's not enough. It's not a bait and switch or like let's just get them. I'm selling them this. I don't care about them. The one thing you'll learn about, they call it high ticket clients or services or whatever. You can't land, or you can, but you shouldn't land a high ticket client or service if you don't perform at a high level or give them high quality of service.
Okay.
So because it's going to backfire on you so fast. Everything's going to burn to the ground.
You're talking a big game, but you can't execute.
Right. You over here, you got a contract, right? NFL contract. You getting a $100 million contract or NBA contract. You got a Supermax, but you can't hit free throws or layup, bro. Like, you out here taking 30 shots and missing, and you right here by the backboard. And you got a lot of rebounds, but you have to be able to deliver because pretty quickly it will spread like a wildfire. Because the higher up you go as far as high ticket, there's fewer people there. So they all spread don't use this company. They were trash. Don't use this. They were trash. If you have a good reputation, though, it's catch-22 because sometimes people are like, that's my competitive advantage. I don't want to share it with others. But other times, other people who are well-known, you may take a pay cut to do that. They'll give you a testimonial and endorse you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you want. You want that message, but you want the deliverability. So if you don't have the things in place to deliver at a high level, maybe you don't scale as fast.
Let's look at a case study, right? I call it a target audience. You call it an avatar, right?
Yeah. Target. Yeah. Same.
Nike is not selling shoes. We can all agree, right? Nike is selling aspiration.
Correct.
You know, through stories about athletes that are overcoming the odds.
Yeah.
Think about
that's their new campaign the last couple of years.
Think about the folks that get shoe contract. Think about where they come from. Probably in the hood somewhere, or maybe they only
that was the previous generation. This generation are all second gen NBA players. They're all second gen NBA players.
But I'm trying to get, I'm going somewhere here. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of times with these athletes, they have a story, and there's so many obstacles that they've had to overcome to be able to get to where they are. I remember when Michael Jordan shoes first came out, right? You know, they had this thing,
Be Like Mike. Yeah.
Make Me Like Mike. They even came out with a movie, with the Lil Bow Wow movie, Like Mike. And I remember I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I want the Jordans, man. Why? Because I want to be like Mike. You get what I'm saying?
Or they had the pump up. And he was on the playground. He was like, time out. You pumped it up. He was like, I'm about to tear y'all up now.
Let him move out my way.
Move out my way.
Exactly.
Like, double him.
And it was crazy because now when I look back, I'm like, man, they really got me because I was thinking that I was
about to like.
I thought I was about to do
But
something.
the thing is, it worked because your friends thought you was about to do something. He pumped it up. Everybody, leave them open. Just guard him. Look at his shoes. So he got all the air in it.
Yeah. So when you think of that situation, think about when you're growing up. Well, I don't know about now, but back in the day, you went out and did two things. You either played sports or you rode your bike or you played with your friends, right?
Right.
And every time we wanted to go out, you wanted to have your Jordans on, you wanted to have your Nikes on. And Nike was able to do it. Have you ever seen their commercial?
Yeah,
they never talk about the shoe.
Yeah.
They just focus on the athlete. They focus on the story. Even one time they had a slogan, just do it. Meaning
because they're not selling the shoes.
They're not selling shoes. They're selling the aspiration
hope of you being able to be like your idol or your who you aspire to be, your favorite athlete.
And that's what I mean when I say that. Look, when you're telling a story, you got to be able.
But the shoes were good too.
Obviously. If
well, that's part of what you were saying, right?
You got to
actually deliver.
You can't have shoes that you wear and break on the court, break ankles,
and then you drop the ball.
Exactly.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you got to be able to, activate the emotion. You got to be able to activate the attention, and you got to trigger some sort of memory that allows them to be able to cling on what you're doing. That way, they buy into your product or service.
I think some people mistake connecting with people versus talking them to death, right? So they say a saying that I had to write down today. I was like, man, that was a good one. I gotta save that to the podcast, bro, because K always be having all the sayings. I want a good saying, but no, you don't want to over explain anything, right? Because when you're over explaining anything, no one's biting or whatever, that means they don't see the value. Or it could be another thing. It could be twofold. They need time to digest what you just said, right? So if you're over explaining, they say over explanation then turns to desperation.
So
y'all write that down.
So I like that. So obviously we're always here. We want to always make sure not only are we educating people, but we're giving people practical advice.
Yeah.
So in order to make sure that you're not over explaining, you need to have some sort of framework, right? And I call it the HERO framework. HERO. HERO meaning
come up with
You're
another
always
one.
ready.
Why you trying to one up me,
You're always
bro?
ready.
man, let the people focus. So HERO. So hero meaning that who's the main character that you're trying to target, right? This could be your customer or your audience. You need to be able to understand, like, talk to them. E stands for enemy, meaning like what obstacle are you trying to solve, or are you trying to overcome, right? Then you have your R, which is the resolution. How are you going to solve this problem? And then you have your O, which is
opportunity.
No. O, outcome.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you can have that framework, hero, right? Enemy, resolution, outcome, you have the perfect
That's
framework.
a good one, actually.
Have you ever used that before?
Bro, I'm still mad you stole my shine. Stole my shine over here. Like,
I'm over here making
because that was a good one. I was like, hey, the producers write that down. That's a good one.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna use that. Hey, I hope this doesn't air quickly, but I'm gonna go to the staff. Hey, y'all need to figure out. I came up with this H.
I don't face to face. No. But getting back to it though. All right. One last thing I want us to talk about is how do you make sure if you're gonna start putting stuff out there as a business owner, right? How do I know what resonates? Is there a good way to figure out, or do I just tell my story and hope it resonates?
Focus group, practice, focus group. Tell it to people who don't have the issues. Tell it to people who do have the issues that you're talking about. Just, hey, I want to bounce the idea off you. I'm thinking about starting a marketing company. What would be your pain points that you would want? This is the idea I have. Do you think that this is something that could help you? And sometimes in doing that, you start interviewing the other people and start learning more about them. And they start learning about themselves and not knowing the pain points that they had. And then you're like, I could solve that with this, and that will yield you this. And that's when then you could take all that feedback in and make your own pitch, because you know now, your small quote unquote focus group, it at least resonates with them and not just in your head, right? So at least you have a little bit of perspective, right?
Yeah.
Versus just what's in your head.
So for me,
That'd be my point.
I would say that let's think about the fundamentals of a business, right? When you're running a business, number one, you identify a problem, then you validate the problem, then you solve the problem. So the second part, where you're validating that it's a real problem, is where you find out who your target audience is and to see if it's actually a real problem. Because there's a lot of folks, doesn't matter how perfect your storytelling is.
Yes.
If there is no problem to be solved, there's nothing you can do. It's the reason why, they say, I think the fastest business to go out of business is a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because the restaurant that you want to start, maybe you and your family really, really like that type of food, but it doesn't mean everybody else want to eat that food.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And you can have a great story background and all that stuff.
The fundamental of a business is that when you've been able to identify a problem, you need to be able to validate that problem. That's why we talk about the focus group. Another way you can do it is you can put out a survey. You can do it yourself, or there are companies that will do it for you and say, hey, I got all these questions. Let's get an answer. And if the answer are leaning more to a real problem, then let's try and figure out a solution, some type of innovation to be able to solve that problem. I think that's one of the things that you can do to essentially, make sure that you have the right storytelling.
Well, let me ask this question on top of it, because I've been saying something recently. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've been telling people that I've kind of turned into a jaded dreamer. I have a lot of people that come to me and tell me all these aspirational dreams. Right.
So can you explain to the folks what a jaded dreamer is?
A jaded dreamer is somebody that has tried and failed a whole bunch of times and keeps getting back up and failing again. However, truly knows that to truly be successful, it's going to take a lot.
I think.
All right. That's
interesting.
So we both had our ups and downs and failures and whatnot. So I feel you on that. Exactly. We all have, right. So I feel you on that. But I think the issue is, one thing that I've learned over is that you can't, I'm not going to crush any hope. You have to know, a wise person wants to know me it told me that you have to know when to run. You have to know when to hide. You have to know when to walk away. It was a very wise lesson. And so when you figure that out and you've been beating that dead horse, sometimes you just gotta leave that bat.
Yeah.
And just go try elsewhere. So all jokes aside, I'm saying that like what you can do is, even though you're jaded and you dream, you have to take from what you failed and say, okay, now what did I do wrong? Did I just hop into something because I was so excited and dreaming, and I need to find some kind of accountability because I'm the dreamer out of the group? I need to find a realist, Jake.
So I said that I introduced that because
Jake's
it
our
really goes
producer.
to the storytelling. Because I hear these powerful stories, but I'm like, behind that story, you ain't gonna get there.
What you know? But here's the thing, though.
And I don't want to crush people's dreams. You know, you have these aspirational stories that people want to put out there, and it's powerful.
Can you give us an example? Because you're like,
No, I can.
I get it, but I'm saying for our audience,
Okay.
so they can follow a little bit better.
Okay, an
'Cause
example.
I know there's probably one you're thinking of.
Jane Doe
Let's say Jane Doe wants to start a
restaurant.
No. It's actually even bigger, right? It could be, hey, I want to start a. Let's see. Which one did I get recently?
And he was like, what? Just do your taxes.
A
kidding.
lending platform.
Okay.
Oh, that's.
I want to do a lending platform between small business merchants. All right.
Sounds risky.
That sounds very risky.
Yeah, I know.
Actually.
Already.
So you need a lot of capital.
You guys are already pouring water. So it's like, okay, I want to start a small business lending platform. However, it's going to almost be like, hey, we all contribute together.
Right.
We put money in a pot, and we then help each other, or somebody takes the pot every single month. But yes, people have been doing this since the beginning of time,
That's
but
true.
we're going to make it more electronic, digitized.
So,
we're
but
gonna have
wait.
wallets. We're going to have
Are
ways
you
to-
their advisor?
Oh, no.
You're just their CPA?
It just happened to
Okay.
tell me about this.
They were pitching it to
And-
him.
I was going to say. 'cause-
and they had, you know, a whole nice story. I mean, I'm definitely not doing this thing justice. This is actually just an example, right? But just imagine they came up to you. They had a awesome presentation, the video, the emotional music, you know, the people that
but
would
they
be
have the
represented.
numbers, though. And, I don't know. Well,
But I'm talking about people out
Yeah.
there that if you were to create this story, how do you know this story is going to resonate with people for real?
You know what the problem with
There's
that?
no
with
legs with that.
The problem.
So I just
You
gave
gotta put
a
the
random
oh, okay,
example.
okay.
But I'm about to
That
tell-
was a random
The reason
example.
why
yeah.
I wouldn't even pay attention to that, the problem with that is that it is something that they have identified amongst themselves that is a problem,
Right.
but it's not a global
they
problem.
haven't, especially on that scale.
Yeah.
They haven't tested it, or maybe they have. That's why I asked where the numbers is.
Because I mean, the banks are already doing it, right? But
Right.
now, if you feel like you need to do it amongst each other, you know, that means that you're taking on high risk,
It
you know,
is.
folks.
It
that
is.
We're not going to be able to pay back.
But
So that's not
is
going to
the
work.
business is
Where you gonna even get the capital to
Exactly.
even get
That's
launched,
what I said.
You know?
Well, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying
But that's
like,
just an example,
Yeah.
right? I'm just saying, what about how do we make sure people aren't, because maybe let me
Everybody's
lay
telling
it
you.
this way. All right. Everybody thinks their business idea is the next.
Yes.
so I
So
just feel
maybe
like
instead of everybody erase my my example, all right? But think about whenever people think of, hey, I have a bright idea, they think it's gonna be the next best thing.
then I just feel like there's no next best thing if it's just an idea and you just
Oh no, they're gonna go out, make the video, do
Yeah,
everything,
no,
start building. I've
before
got a
you-
website.
bef-
I've got this.
No,
I'm putting it
before-
out on
you
social
know how to-
media.
before
and
you
so-
do that, you need to do some kind of focus group. That's just an awesome idea and that's cute. Just like they said, you make it's like making a mixtape and you put it in your own iPod and you just listen to it in your closet, but nobody's heard it. No, we don't know that your rhymes are trash. Like you know,
You
like,
know how to take yourself out. The best way to take yourself out of the picture
Yeah.
is to either build a partnership that you need to be able to execute that business, or have a huge long wait list of people that can't wait for the solution that you got. Because at that point, if I'm speaking to an investor, I'm not saying that this is a problem that I think needs to be solved.
No, I'm saying
actually
have it.
I have all the people that need this problem solved.
Just need the funding.
You know, and then on top of that, when I talk about, partnership, let's say maybe I got like a Walmart or Target or a big partner that's going to even help me, get the product or service even out there.
That's way down the line. He's talking about like they just made the content, made the video, and they're expecting it to go like that.
Because I've got an awesome story,
that doesn't
people
matter.
are gonna come.
That does not matter. But you talk about being a jaded
dreamer.
I'm what you call I call myself a serial entrepreneur because I've had so many failures. But the one thing about me is that it's like I'm hard-headed, I just try and take one or two things I learned.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I'm going to keep doing it. Because it only takes one time to be right, bro.
That's why I call it a jaded dreamer. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop dreaming. But
I'm
when
not
I
gonna do the
hear
same
some
thing.
dream,
I think you just need to realize like what is timing and what is you not knowing, but now you know, which is timing, right?
I don't want us to shift this whole.
Michael Jordan said you miss 100% of shots you don't take. But you know what he didn't say? He didn't talk about how you need to change your form every time until it gets better and better and better.
That's right. What was it? 0-7 the first 7 years, but they tell you he has 6-0 in the finals. That's all. I'm saying like it's okay to fail and to dream and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that's just a dream. If you just did all the cute stuff and you never beta tested or focus group test, there's no real legs. It's just you and what you think is great.
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of validation to, okay, I'm going on the right path. You have to get the feedback to understand, hey, okay, I was going this way. They pushed me back this way. I'm going this way. You don't know where you're going unless you have some kind of feedback to move forward.
So we talk about the storytelling framework, right? Hero, right? The H, stands for hero. The E stands for enemy. The R stands for resolution, and the O stands for outcome, right? And we talked about being able to activate folks' memory, attention, and emotion to be able to grab their attention. And we talked about how whenever you want to sell something, you need to not just identify the problem, but you need to be able to validate the problem. Because if you don't validate the problem, it does not matter what the storytelling is. Can you close us out?
Hey, for everyone out there, social media is definitely a powerful tool.
Yes, this is the way.
Right. Yes, it's just in the way that we use it. Right. Make sure you've got something, especially like everyone has been saying up here, that is worth telling a story.
That's right.
And then figuring out how to connect with the right audience that you're trying to.
Otherwise, you're just waiting for chance. That's just chance. It's not.
Right.
There's no formula.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to close out with this, but I will. All right. Make sure the effort that you're putting in gets you closer to your end goal. Every single motion that you make.
Yes.
All right. Because in business, we do a lot as business owners. So if social media is going to be one of those things that we're going to use, make sure we're using it right.
Yeah.
And not just throwing darts out there. You may need to employ an expert to help you set this thing up and make sure that, it's working properly. And you're also reviewing the metrics that are coming from it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Tosin.
And can you guys drop it in the comment section? We want to hear from you. What, storytelling frameworks are you using? What's working? What's not working? Drop it in the comment section. And please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. My name is Kay. You can find me on Instagram at OneHorizon. Where can they find you?
My name is Alan. You can find me at iam.adds. And don't forget, over explanation can seem like desperation. Don't try to. I
like that. Where can they find you, Tosin?
You can find me at Tosin Amatayo. And very soon, you're going to hear a story about me.
That's right.
Yes.
And you can also find us on the Beyond the Grind BTG. Until next time.
Peace.